All right, as promised, fresh off of the other Paladin video I made praising Blizzard for their game design, we are now going to praise Blizzard for Divine Steed. Yes, I have made a full 360-degree turn, and I have decided that whoever is dictating Paladin PvP and Paladin gear design and whatnot is a brilliance. I tip my hat. I bow down to you, sir. I am not worthy. And just get that out of the way right now. Whoever is in charge of figuring out PvP game design in Classic World of Warcraft is brilliant. And the fact that they're probably taking a bunch of my ideas that I've spat out over the years and putting them into practice makes them probably even more brilliant. So it is what it is. By the transitive property, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I already know that I am blah, blah, blah. All right, moving on. All right, so why do I think all this is absolutely brilliant? Well, I said a very, 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 very long time ago that one way that they could balance PvP, the burst meta in Season of Discovery, would be if they gave us trinkets. I think I've repeated this multiple times over the course of Season of Discovery. Is if they gave us trinkets that had heavy stamina on them, to try to be competitive with things like Goblin Mortar and Tidal Charm. Like literally the equivalent of like a passive Burrower Shell trinket, right? So the apex predators of PvP trinkets in Classic World of Warcraft are Goblin Mortar, Tidal Charm, Gnomish Detomatic to a lesser degree, Nifty Stopwatch, and above all, things like Burrower Shell, okay? Those are all the apex predators of PvP trinkets. The PvP trinkets that are really defining how PvP works in Classic World of Warcraft is specifically Goblin Mortar and Tidal Charm. Oh, before I get too deep into this video, just in case somebody watches this damn video, I have a slight request. Discombobulate Array, Major Discombobulate Array, could use a redesign in the sense that just keep her the same way she is, but she shares a cooldown with Whipperroot Tuber and Dragon Fruit, which outside of duels is just incredibly it makes her a dueling only trinket because Whipperroot Tubers are usually banned in duels. Under any other circumstance, she's basically useless. But if you just remove that from her, she would be a competitive trinket worthy of being put up. She wouldn't be broken, but she'd be worthy of putting in the list that I just mentioned. But the fact that she's opportunity costed with a Whipperroot Tuber is just terrible. She has like a 100% spell power ratio behind her, so she's on like a 5-minute cooldown. I can find it really fast. Major Recombobulator. Make sure I don't pause the video. Gives you on average like 500 health and 500 mana on a 5-minute cooldown. She has charges. She's a little bit expensive to make, but not that bad. But she has a 100% spell power ratio behind her. So usually when you pop this thing in PvP, it'll give you like 900 healing, so it'll heal you for about as much as a Whipperroot Tuber, but it also gives you like 500 mana back, which is really, really good. But again, she's opportunity costed against Whipperroot and Dragon Fruit Tubers, which just makes her completely fucking useless under all circumstances, except specifically duels. And I think, yeah, if I could snap my fingers and change anything in Season of Discovery, I would just, no, she deserves to be used under any and all PvP circumstances, and it doesn't break anything. Thank you very much. Also, she can remove polymorph effects on other people. She can't remove polymorph effects on yourself. That might be why she's opportunity costed against, blah, 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 blah. But HORDE could really use that, to be perfectly honest. We've already given HORDE kind of sort of freedom. We might as well give them kind of sort of more cleanses and polymorph removal in Major Recombobulator redesign. All right, let me take a go out of here. All right, so why do I think this is brilliant? Well, because the two trinkets that are the apex predators that you have to compare every other trinket's power level to for PvP purposes is Goblin Mortar and Gnomish Detomatic. Goblin Mortar is particularly egregious in World of Warcraft because she does more damage than any burst trinket in the game, and she also stuns for 3 seconds, which any trinket that stuns its target for 3 seconds and isn't really a skill shot, she's not even really a skill shot. She's damn near instant. She's also AoE, which just makes it worse. But she's fire damage, which is more easily resistible, so it's a potato patata. Like Tidal Charm, that is a nature resistance effect. A 3-second stun in any on-demand stun as a PvP trinket in any game you can possibly think of would be completely broken. You put that in League of Legends, it's broken. You put that in any iteration of Classic World of Warcraft ever, it's broken. You put that in Warlords of Draenor. You put that in The War Within. You put that in Wrath of the Lich King. Broken. There's a reason why 3-second on-demand stun trinkets do not exist in any version of World of Warcraft, except specifically for Classic WoW. It is because they absolutely shit on game design when it comes to trinkets, because they're just completely broken. Why is this? Well, because a 3-second stun is your best offensive and defensive and catching trinket all in one. Like, oh, you need to run away. A Tidal Charm Goblin Mortar is the best runaway trinket. Oh, you need to gap close. Well, they're the best gap closers. Oh, you need to burst on somebody. They're the best bursting trinkets. It's just like fuck. It clubs game design to death like a baby seal. It is in essence terrible game design because it is completely broken, and no other trinkets can really compare to it. So at least thank God they are on long CDs, right? That's the only thing keeping those two items even remotely in check in Classic World of Warcraft. And I've never been able to, in my mind, I've always been like, I have no fucking clue what kind of trinkets you could put into the game that would even make me want to take those trinkets over an on-demand 3-second stun trinket. I have no fucking idea how that could be. And then somebody at Blizzard basically said, hold my beer, and proved me wrong on this. And so here we are. Here are the two trinkets that I would 100% take into battle over Goblin Mortar and Gnomish Netomatic. However, here's where the game design conspiracy starts getting fascinating, okay? The moment you give the option of taking trinkets like this to classes in a PvP game is the moment that any class that doesn't have mobility suddenly needs a mobility increase. All right, just follow with me on this, right? So as a standalone, Divine Steed is, I'm still against Divine Steed. Just looking at it looking at nothing else, Divine Steed is a terrible game design idea for Paladin in Classic World of Warcraft. The only fucking thing it does is it frees up your trinket slots to be taken for something else. But why in the flying fuck would I want to take anything besides Goblin Mortar, Gnomish Netomatic, Tidal Charm, Nifty Stopwatch? Why would I ever want to do that as a Paladin? But then they put these two trinkets in the game, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see where we're going. You guys are just smarter than me. Oh, okay, cool. My hat's off to you. I am not worthy, Wayne's World, you know. Okay, so why do I think this is brilliant game design? Well, it's because now you're giving the player base two very distinct options in their trinket choices as far as PvP game design is concerned. Option number one is that they can go burst trinkets, right? And they can go in on the burst, right? Option two is that they can take anti-burst trinkets. Okay, Burrow Rochelle always was one of the better anti-burst trinkets in the game. It's why she makes the tier list of god tier trinkets for PvP. Major Recombobulator Ray is also worthy of being on the list as an anti-burst trinket. She's just dual only because she's opportunity costed against, blah, 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 but hopefully we can get that removed in Season of Discovery. And then Arena Grandmaster is also like god tier, but she's on a 30-minute cooldown, so she's not really worthy of being talked about. These two trinkets, however, are just absolutely amazing for anti-burst play. So you have classes that, not just classes, you have players that can take trinkets where they're all in on the burst, And if they run into another player who's also all in on the burst, you're going to get a very bursty meta is going to play out, right? Because both parties have decided to not take anti-burst trinkets. Because they don't exist in Classic World of Warcraft. Like, not really. Or they do, but they're really hard to get your hands on. Other ones that come to mind are anti-burst trinkets, are the resistance trinkets, like the 100 to all resist trinkets, the Scarab Brooch, Scarab, just look up Brooch. Bro? Yeah, I'm just going to look at do Bro. Magical target absorb shield, 50%. No, it's not that one. Not that one. I can't remember. Do I have to go Scarab? Petrified Scarab. I think it's Petrified. Yeah. Is it Petrified Scarab? Yeah. Okay, Trinket. On use. Increase your spell resistances by 100 for 1 minute. Every time a hostile spell lands on you, this bonus is reduced by a 10 resistance, 3-minute cooldown. It's that and Burrower Shell that are absolutely amazing for defensive trinkets. But one of the options for combating burst classes with bursting trinkets has always been to take defensive-oriented trinkets, like anti-burst trinkets. But they're just really hard to get your hands on, and Lord knows you can't use them while you're fucking stunned. So a bit of a problem there, right? But then Blizzard is nice enough to put these 2 trinkets into the game. If you die to a burst in Season of Discovery now, there's a really good chance it's your own fault because you did not take anti-burst trinkets. Like, that's one meta you could do, is that you could start putting more anti-burst trinkets into the game and make it the player's own fault for dying to bursts because they did not take the anti-burst trinkets that Blizzard has clearly given you. And you could do a good game design that way. People will still bitch because the 80% of player mentality, especially on melee DPS classes, is to take as much DPS as they can possibly get their hands on, not realizing that increasing your stamina and overall survivability in combat is a DPS increase. Whatever, but it is what it is, right? So let's talk about which classes are absolutely tickled pink by this. But again, I have to praise Divine Steed here. Because if you did not have Divine Steed on Paladin, but they were kind of pressuring you into taking anti-burst trinkets like this to survive burst in the game, Paladin would be completely useless in PvP. Because I have to take Goblin Mortar, I have to take Gnomish Denomatic, or I cannot catch any fucking thing very well at all in PvP. My only catch option in PvP, unless I have Repent specifically, is to throw a grenade and to Hodge stun them for 3 seconds, which is something that you would never do in Classic World of Warcraft because you don't have enough damage to get the job done under those circumstances. At best, you can put an auto attack and a wreck bomb into the target. Like auto attack, judgment, wreck bomb, and then you stand there with your dick in your hand. Like maybe you can throw a hammer of wrath in that extra 3 seconds, and that's it. That's all you can do with your life. In Season of Discovery, you get to add a Crusader Strike and a Divine Storm, and then instant Hammers of Wraths into that equation. Or not even, you don't, assuming they don't stun you or heal instantly, I suppose. So that is much more viable. But yeah, so the moment they give us Divine Steed, it frees up trinket slot usage for being this. And these 2 items are perfectly designed for a class like Paladin to take into PvP. I've already made a video, like a 40-minute video, talking about how much I love the design of the new two-handed PvP weapons for Paladin, especially a Lava Dredger, especially in conjunction with these 2 trinkets right here. Holy crap. If we get no more defensive trinkets, anti-burst trinkets in the entire game, other than these 2 trinkets right here, I'll still be happy as Paladin. I still think it's great game design. But the moment that you make us take these 2 trinkets as a Paladin is the moment you need to give us a gap closer. They did give us a gap closer in Divine Steed. So again, I'm looking at really good game design. So my hat's off. So Divine Steed in isolation, terrible idea, because the moment I take Goblin Mortar and Gnomish Denomatic, I can just catch people like an insane machine. But if the burst is so high that I'm forced to take these type of trinkets, then suddenly I need Divine Steed. Without Divine Steed, I wouldn't have the option of taking these two trinkets. And interestingly enough, in any class that's going to be tickled pink with these two trinkets in the game already has high mobility, or they've given them high mobility as well. So this is not just a one-off a Paladin is happy thing. My second most favorite played class in World of Warcraft is Enhancement Shaman. And I'll tell you right now, Enhancement Shaman especially, they got their wolves, which means they have a mobility increase all of a sudden. And then they'll be tickled pink by taking these trinkets as well. Because Enhancement Shaman is the one other class in the game that could really play the resistance meta. Let's switch this over to a Lava Dredger, since I've been talking up Lava Dredger here for a little while. You can see that we have 4,600 HP. We have a Lava Dredger, which is absolutely amazing, which means we've got our plus healing should be quite high. Yeah, our plus healing is 300. These are the original stats of Tier 1. We don't even know how they're going to change the stats of Tier 1. And you can see that if I throw on a Fire Resist Aura, I don't even have Hand of Rag. If I throw on a Fire Resist Aura, it's already going up to 170 in a world where Spell Pen is not currently in the game. I don't even need Hand of Rag at this point, and I'm tickled pink. I'm tickled pink. But I'm also aware that classes like Shaman can do the exact same thing, right? If a Shaman's running around with these two trinkets on and they're smart enough to put down their Fire Resist Totem and to be an Orc, then goddamn, like Jesus, they can take that shit to the bank. I might have to make a Shaman guide again to point out to Shamans just how broken this is. So, for example, a 170 Fire Resist divided by 40 equals times 10 equals gives us a 52% chance to resist grenade stuns and goblin mortar stuns. It's actually higher than that because you have a 5% innate base resistance chance. So we have damn near a 50% chance to resist grenades and goblin mortar stuns at this point. If you were an Orc, you'd add an extra 15 to this. So you're already like damn near at a 2/3 chance to resist grenade and goblin mortar stuns as an Orc Shaman. And that's just, that's with you running around with like Lava, you could just literally replace Lava Dredger. Lava Dredger would probably make this a 60% chance to resist as an Orc Shaman. Absolutely amazing trinkets to take on an Orc Shaman who wants burst protection but doesn't really care about anything else. They've been given the mobility, which frees up their trinket slots, yada yada yada. They were kind of, before Wolves, they were kind of in a similar situation, but a little bit better off, but a little bit not so better off. They were a different flavor of Paladin as far as catching mechanics and as far as surviving burst mechanics. Now they still are a different flavor of Paladin as far as catch mechanics and burst mechanics, but they can now 100% play the resist game similar to a Paladin, which is really, really good for them. The other class that comes to mind is Druid. Druids before couldn't, they were the only other class besides Shaman and Paladin that could really play the resist game, because their Mark of the Wild, especially when it's talented, gives them like 40 all resist. But yeah, they start taking these trinkets defensively. They start taking like the new Hand of Rag or a Lava Dredger. The next thing you know, they can play the resist game. Even classes that normally wouldn't want... There's only two classes I can think of where the resist... these two trinkets are not really good trinkets for in PvP. And they are Mage, because Mage, you goblin mortar them, you grenade stun them, they just blink out of it. They don't really give a shit. Although they could super benefit from the increase in stamina off of these two trinkets. They can also just cast Sheep, so they might as well just, burst on people, kind of a thing. The other class that doesn't really benefit from this is Rogue, because, rogues have so many stuns and so many get out of jail free cards that they can just be like, they would prefer DPS. So you have two classes that would prefer burst trinkets. You have three classes that can 100% benefit from these two trinkets, and then you have four remaining classes that might be on the fence with these two trinkets. They would be Shadow Priest, Warlock, Hunter, and I'm forgetting one, and Warrior. Yeah. Unclear if Warrior would want to take these trinkets or not. Warrior does scale pretty hard with stamina. Yeah, Warrior might want Catch Me trinkets. They might prefer the Gnomish Denomatic and the Goblin Mortar trinkets in the grand scheme of things, but I really don't know. But if they want to take these trinkets, it's perfectly fine as well. Hunter is going to be in a weird place because the only thing that really kills Hunter is getting Goblin Mortar and Gnomish Denomatic. But they're going to get a hell of a lot less Goblin Mortar and Gnomish Denomatic now that people are going to take these trinkets over Goblin Mortar and Gnomish Denomatic. But they might swap them out specifically for a Hunter. But it doesn't change the fact that if any class in the game is finding it difficult to survive a burst from an opposing bursting class, that they can literally increase their HP by, but what is that, like 400 HP, and they can increase their fire resist by like 40%. They can literally just do that, like at the snap of their fingers. Just about every tier 2 set in the entire game comes caked in fire resist. You might not have noticed it, but every tier 2 set in the game comes caked with like 30 to 40 fire resist on it. They could easily switch out their Librams for minus 200 HP, but plus 40 fire resist. They can get an extra, 15 fire resist on their cape as an enchant. That's just off the top of my head. Blizzard's putting like another, I think it's like 10 or 15 fire resist enchant on the shoulders. I might be able to pull it up here really fast. Season of Discovery. Yeah, 15 fire resist, Blessed Flame, Mantle, blah, blah, blah. So we can add another fire resist here. What I'm trying to point out is every class in the game can now play the fire resist meta. And then you get an extra plus 40 fire resist just from these trinkets. So any class in the game can be running around with 140 fire resist, plus 1% spell hit, and plus 200 HP. This is an important thing to remember, especially for HORDE. Yes, I know this is an Alliance-centric channel, but just note that this is an even bigger deal for HORDE, because the number one reason you're taking fire resist is to try to mitigate the enemy burst damage, because bursts are at their scariest when they're coming off of Goblin Mortar, Gnomish Denomatic, or Tidal Charm, and 2 out of 3 of those are... No, my bad. Did I say Gnomish Denomatic? My bad. Grenade, Goblin Mortar, and Tidal Charm are where the scariest bursts are, and 2 out of 3 of those have like 500 fire damage associated with them, on top of being tied to like a 3-second stun, right? Like, holy fuck. So if you fail to resist the grenade stun, you can still resist the incoming damage off of the grenade. It's binary. Like, a grenade has really weird mechanics behind it. So it's like in Goblin Mortar. So if you had a 50% chance to resist, 50% fire resist, you'd have a 55% chance to resist grenade or Goblin Mortar stun. And even if you failed to resist the grenade stun would only ever do 75% damage to you, because you are over the fire resist. You're soft capped, as they say in Resistance. I guess that's the official term for it now. So you're never going to take 100% damage from it. There's a really good chance you take half damage from it, and that right there is worth like an extra 200. It makes up for the Librams, the loss of 200 HP in the Librams just off. It's the best way to survive bursts, is what I'm really trying to say here. But you got to remember that almost all the classes that I just mentioned, Warlock, they can be an Orc. Warrior, they can be an Orc. Hunter can be an Orc. And I don't think I've ever seen an Orc Priest, so I'm assuming they cannot be an Orc. But Priests are already like super tanky as is, so they don't really care about that, I don't think. But notice that 3 out of the 4 classes that might be on the fence about these trinkets and what I'm talking about here can be a fucking Orc. And so if I take this and I divide it by 40 equals, and I multiply it by 10, you can see that this will give a 35% chance to resist Goblin to Grenade and Goblin Mortar stuns. But you got to remember that you're also an Orc, so you get to add 20 to that. So you're already at or above the 50% chance to resist mark. So if the Horde ever grow a brain, and they begin to realize that being an orc in Season of Discovery with fire resist is probably it's PvP meta defining. If they ever grow a brain, I would still say that this is amazing game design, like absolutely amazing game design. Yeah, so I'm tickled pink by all this. Yeah, so this is why I'm doing an about face on Divine Steed in Paladin in particular, because it does make room for trinkets like this. And when you take trinkets like this on a Paladin or a Shaman or a Druid, there's a very good chance that you're going to be immune, not 100% immune, which is also good game design, but you're going to be a very, very hard customer to kill in bursting. The other amazing thing about these trinkets is that Goblin Mortar, Tidal Charm, Gnomish Net-O-Matic, all the other big five trinkets, they have one great big weakness that is kind of solved somewhat by rotating through them in Classic WoW. But their big weakness is they're not all that great in Battlegrounds because of their relatively long CDs, right? They're on a long cooldown. And how you kind of combat that in Battlegrounds is you just have like 5 or 6 relatively equal trinkets that you cycle through in Battlegrounds. But if you're like in AB, that doesn't really work all that well. If you're in Alterac Valley, that doesn't really work all that well. It only really works in serious in Warsong Gulch matches, particularly. But yeah, having some passive trinkets like this, which are just on and active at all times, is worth its weight in gold as far in just about any and all PvP circumstances. So Tidal Charm, Gnomish Net-O-Matic are still absolutely amazing, but they're not the thing you really want to start a duel with. They're the thing you're going to want to end a one-on-one fight with, if that makes any sense. If you're 2v1, you want to start with the burst trinkets. And try to make it a 1v1 as quickly as possible, and then you'd swap over to these trinkets. If you were in a 1v1, you'd want to start the fight with these trinkets and then wait until resources get low on both sides. Both mana resources get low, health resources get low, and then you'd switch over to the burst trinkets and try to end it there. But yeah, so I'm happy with Blizzard if they want to go... If they want to push a meta of PvP centered around did you bring burst trinkets or did you bring anti-burst trinkets, I'm 100% on board with that. The moment they do that, however, Paladin is going to need some kind of gap closer. And since they gave Paladin both and that gap closer would need to be both of an offensive and defensive nature to make up for Tidal Charm, Gnomish Net-O-Matic, Goblin Mortar specifically, right? It would need to be both an offensive and defensive use, and ideally it would have some counterplay to it, which is what Divine Steed has, right? You see them running at you super fast. You can Tidal Charm them, right, and tell them to shut the hell up, so it has some counterplay to it. You might be able to dismount them with a Discombobulate Array, which I can't test on the PTR right now, which might have some counterplay to it. If they use Divine Steed defensively and they run away from the target, that's also good. These are all things that Goblin Mortar can do anyways, if that makes any sense. The only thing that Divine Steed cannot do that Goblin Mortar could do is tell a mage to shut the hell up while you're silenced, basically, right? Yeah. I'm not even sure you could use Tidal Charm under those conditions, though. So I'm happy. I think this is just a net win for game design in general for Classic World of Warcraft. And I'm very happy to see that many other classes can also embrace the fire resist meta for PvP purposes, especially classes you wouldn't think would want to embrace the fire resist meta. So Orc Warrior can embrace the fire resist meta and become absolute monstrosities. Orc Warlocks can embrace it. Orc Shamans, dear fucking god. If you're a rogue, you probably wouldn't want to mess with it. If you're a priest, you probably wouldn't want to mess with it. Paladin can definitely embrace it. Mages, you wouldn't want to mess with it. Orc hunters, which are also already some of the best hunters, can embrace the fire resist meta, and it would actually be really, really good for them. And druids, of course, are top tier for embracing the fire resist meta. So yeah, so I'm very, very happy about this. In general, I have nothing but praise for Blizzard and their PvP game design changes in general. Yeah, so I'm doing a 360 on Divine Steed here in the grand scheme of things. Do I think these trinkets are overpowered? The answer is yes, but only when you ask yourself on what class and compared to what exactly. On Paladin, on Shaman, on Druid, these two trinkets are overpowered, but compared to what exactly? It is difficult to conceive of an overpowered trinket in classic World of Warcraft compared to a Goblin fucking Mortar. Goblin Mortar is so beyond the pale of how powerful that fucking thing is that it's difficult. You literally have to overpower the other trinkets in classic WoW just to be able to even remotely compete with Goblin Mortar. The only thing keeping Goblin Mortar in check is the fact that she's on like a 10-minute cooldown. That's the only fucking thing keeping that piece of shit in check. She does more burst damage than a burst damage trinket. She does more stun than the other stun damage trinket. Like Tidal Charm is single target. Goblin Mortar is area of effect. They're both basically non-skill based instant casts. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here?